everyone. Welcome to
Hello.
another live with Esoteric Nexus. We are at Sacred Grounds Coffee Studio, and today we are talking about perception and assumption.
I like it.
Perception is the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through your senses.
Can I kick this off?
Go for it.
All right, so
Braden loves talking about perception.
perspective. Perception, perspective, all of it. I love it. It's my bread and butter. But I was having this very talk with my buddy Dan. We work together. He's also my cousin-in-law, which is why. Anyway, my turn. But we were talking about this, and he and I what were we talking about? We were talking about people's inability for accountability to self, and how frustrating it can be sometimes when you're trying to help people kind of get a clue, or you yourself kind of needs to catch a clue. But he said something really fascinating, which is that your perspective is directly correlated to the amount of introspection you do. And if you're not willing to look into the things that you feel and react to, and you're not willing to own and accept those shortcomings, your perspective is always going to be skewed or warped.
Absolutely.
You're not allowing for a true form.
What builds the perception of ourselves?
And
it's your beliefs, your values, and your own experiences.
Yes.
So it really does create the foundation for your own self-esteem.
Yep.
And the way that you make your decisions.
Right. And it's something that I think is really cool, because as you learn to hold yourself accountable, you gain newer perspectives. And as you practice your perspective, you get opportunities to be able to hold that accountability or have that introspection. And so they kind of build on top of each other. And all you have to do is start on one end or the other, and then it comes full circle. And I say that because a lot of people really get down on trying to find a good perspective. They don't know where to start, how to have it. Sometimes the perspective that you start with doesn't give you what you're looking for, but it's kind of a step.
And that's where our naughty friend assumption comes in.
Yes. Yes.
To tell, we assume what things are going to be like all the time in very subconscious ways, and it kind of alters our own perception.
Yeah.
Well, you can't think you can't have the other person's thoughts, and you can't feel what they're feeling, but you can observe and dig from your own experiences to assume what they might be feeling.
Yeah.
Which is
the start of something.
Communication.
Yeah.
Communication. How do we communicate with perceptions and assumptions? Because we all perceive and we all make assumptions.
I think it's recognizing when you're making an assumption and not allowing that to be a deciding factor, but allow it to be part of the information of the decision you're going to make. So, for example, you want to have a hard talk with somebody, and you always see him blowing up at everybody else over the little things, but you still feel like it needs to be said, and you're going to him under the assumption that they're going to blow up at you for what you've got to say to them. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to go talk to them, or it doesn't mean you're just going to go and do something else because you already know how it's going to go, because you don't know how it's going to go, right?
Which is why assumptions are the killer. They're killer in communications, killer in what could happen if you don't decide to go talk to that person because you're assuming that they're going to react a certain way, and you kill that opportunity that could have happened.
Oh, and here's the beautiful thing about being able to assume how somebody's going to react is you have an opportunity to have a rebuttal, a response, a redirection, if you will, if they come at you with what you are assuming they're going to, right? Mm-hmm. You've got that on the back burner, so that way it doesn't just blow up on you and that's the end of the conversation, you walk away. So assumptions aren't bad. It's just learning where their place is and how it ties into your everyday life. Like, how are you using your assumptions? And how has using your assumptions turned out for you?
Very good questions.
I heard this really cool quote, and it goes like this: your perception of me is a reflection of you, and my reaction to you is an awareness of me. So I feel like it really starts with checking yourself.
Self-awareness is
It's huge.
a quality ingredient I find in people nowadays that I treasure more and more, because when it's lacking, it's really hard to communicate on a basic level. Hey, I don't know. There's a disconnect.
I like to internally I want to say assume because we're talking about it, and it kind of is an assumption, but it's a perception, or I don't know what to call it. But what is the self-awareness level of the audience that you're speaking to?
Yes. Yes.
So
Well, and that ties back to, like, you can find that by seeing what their perspective is, right? Because
Mhm.
as they're verbally dialoguing to you how they feel about their day, you're seeing where they're at.
I
So
want
then,
to correct myself. Assumptions aren't the killer of communication. It's the silent assumptions, because as long as you verbalize and don't phrase it as a question, I feel, or I think, I'm thinking this, is that how it is for you?
this is how I am perceiving what you are saying to me at this moment in time. That's a lot of words, but
Sorry.
yeah. No, you're good.
It's not the bumper sticker.
I wanted you to ask questions, because a lot of this can be
Asking questions.
quelled by,
And I would like to even say that when you assume you're taking on a perspective, right?
yeah.
So it's not necessarily that your assumptions take away from your perspective, but they are a form of it. And so then, like, you can, I don't know, I feel like I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but it's relevant. So, like, then you can start toying with your assumptions. So you can assume to the positive of somebody. And it doesn't have to be, like, blatant and belligerently not true. It just has to.
You just want to assume they're going to do the right thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's assuming they want to do the right thing. Sometimes they did something to slight you, and you've got to assume that they've got more on their plate than they can handle, and you
It's
get
that
to be the
creeping
punching
ego.
bag, you know?
We can take the ego out of it instead of assuming the worst about somebody,
Yes.
or making it super personal. But
No, that doesn't mean kill the ego, but it means picking it up and setting it over here. Because this little ego dude, he's kicking around all the stuff that you're feeling, letting you know all the buttons that have been pushed. And once you feel those buttons, you pick them up, you gotta set them down over here, and then you gotta address all those buttons that got pushed and see what's underneath all that. And then, once you get it from your side, you go back to those same buttons that were pressed, and you try to see it from the other person's side. Try to
what
get
about this situation makes me assume or believe that this is how it is?
Yes.
Positive assumptions, like you were saying, are a way of protecting yourself. Of, you don't want to necessarily silently assume things that are not your business,
Right.
but you also want to, if somebody's going to break your boundaries or constantly disrespect you, you kind of have to start assuming they're going to keep doing it at some point.
Right. Well, and actions speak louder than words, and in that instance, I would say after it's been done a number of times, you know that it doesn't. You don't know
Which is what builds your assumptions, is your experiences. So you recognize a pattern. So that's why you would jump to.
Well, see, this is why you
thinking
don't.
like
This is why you don't. This is why you should strive to not vilify every aspect of the negatives in your life. They are negatives because they have a negative perspective tied to them, and it is up to us to find the positive in the thing that we don't like. That may be necessary, it may not be necessary. It may as you go through it and you start redirecting your perspective in those negative areas.
Whenever you, this is going to sound off top right away, but I'm going to perspective and perception and assumption. Toxic masculinity. You hear masculinity in that sentence, and those two words, automatically a masculinity is a bad thing. Really, like, there's a lot of positive masculinity traits, like just as there's positive feminine traits. And so it feels like assumptions can easily be like the toxic perception
that society has brought upon us.
Yeah.
I like that. That's interesting to think about. And then on that note, it gives you a trail to start following and seeing how many things have negative words tied to them. I saw something the other day that says negative words don't exist in the brain. They don't compute. And I shared a
just
video.
watched that.
Yeah, I shared a video.
The guy with the glasses.
Yes.
And it's been around for a while, so you've probably
He has
seen
glasses.
it. He has glasses. But
It was on the page.
as soon as he said negatives don't exist, he said don't think about an elephant. And your brain doesn't perceive the don't. It just starts thinking about an elephant, whether you picture it or you're thinking of a part of it,
Or the absence of.
or the absence of. For a split moment, you are thinking about that elephant. It has become a subject in your existence. So
It's almost a focus, if you will.
yeah, and I really, really, really like the other one where he's like, if you don't want your kids to eat on the couch, you don't say don't eat on the couch. You tell them eat at the table. You give them a direction of what you want instead of telling them what you don't want, because don't exist, which makes a lot of sense because kids don't understand. No, don't, please stop what you're doing. Like it
Yeah.
takes them a minute to process that. I think that's why as parents we get super frustrated.
This is the focus of my frustration.
Yes.
I don't want this to happen.
Right.
Instead of making the focus,
So
this is what I would prefer to happen.
see, so here's the beautiful thing. So like if you are having negative feelings about your kids, first off, don't feel bad. We all do at some point. You know, whether it's constant or not, like we all are at some level of err. But those things that make you err have a negative connotation to them. Most of it's probably because it's not working or it's not as effective or you feel like you're not getting through. But if you're feeling that way, then acknowledging that, introspecting, shows you need to have a new perspective. So if I'm not getting through the perspective that I am living through right now with my kids, it's not working. So let's switch gears. And switching gears may look like asking direct questions. Switching gears may look like less, calling myself less yelling and raised voices, because it doesn't take much for me to just like roar. And then when you see what you want to change, for me, I want to stop yelling. So then I ask myself, why do I feel the need to yell when my kids do something that irritates me? Because I'm irritated. And because I'm irritated, it shows a lack of having control over the situation, because it's not going how I perceive it to go, which means I need to take a step back and at that level of irritation recognize that I don't have a correct perspective to deal with the situation, so I've got to switch gears. What new perspective can I have? So when I notice the irritation, I have a fail-safe, and it won't be perfect, but it will work me away from that neuropathic rut that I've been in, right?
Right.
So
Right.
and so for me,
It's a good way to teach yourself to find the positive perception of what is happening.
well, and it helps you emotionally regulate. 'Cause
Absolutely.
then you start recognizing when you are being emotional, and there's nothing wrong with emotional. Like you gotta feel
I'm
it.
going to say it. There is a frustrating. I am frustrated with finding the positive about all the things that happen. Or I don't know if it's frustrated with finding the positives. I'm
Definitely.
frustrated with feeling like I'm the only one doing it. And I'm the only one
Well,
seeing what's happening. I don't know how to explain it.
What if instead of, and I feel
want you
that
to be as intelligent and understand these different kinds of
I want
emotions
you
and
to
where they can stem from.
introspect,
Yes, I want
yes.
you to be more introspective.
Yes, I
Why?
understand that, and that's a lot of.
Why am I the only one that is checking myself?
But-
Why can't you check yourself?
There it is, right there. But the question shouldn't be why am I checking myself?
Assumptions,
Well,
perception.
and I'll just lay it out there. Like your perception is that you feel like you have to do the work, and you'd like for somebody else to do the work, so you don't have to. But it's
Yeah.
not work. It is a way of life.
Can't control
Well,
how their experience
when,
goes.
when you choose to introspect, you're choosing to have control over your own self.
Control freak.
Yeah. So you can't control others. You can only control the reactions you do for yourself. So when you start introspecting and you get really good at it, and you start noticing that other people are just like not, they don't get it, they don't want to look at it, they don't want to take that accountability. It makes you kind of like raw because you're doing it. Why aren't they? Why don't they see it? I'm being an example of it. Why can't they pick up on my example? But you're gonna drive yourself crazy doing it. It's really. And this is another thing that Dan and I talked about is gratitude. Gratitude is directly correlated to your perspective.
Ooh.
So I am grateful that I have the opportunity to not be stuck where that person's going to be stuck because I have the capability to be able to see past this. I can do the work, and it sucks that they can't, but gosh damn, I'm not there anymore. And when you hold on to that line of thinking as you go through it, you start pitying people. I start pitying people because they're stuck there. And I don't judge them for it. Everybody has their own lessons. Everybody has their own learning curve. Some people blossom beautifully big right at the beginning, and other people, they may take a millennia, but they'll get there, right? So then my perspective has shifted from having pity for people for being where they're at and being grateful to myself for being where I'm at to now I am no longer in the experiences. I get to see the experiences as they happen. And I get to choose how much I step into each experience and how much I step away from each experience. But that's all it is. They're all
That is
just
so weird.
experiences.
That is so weird. I had an experience like that where I felt I was like in it and observing it
Yes.
at the same time,
Yes.
and it was just driving me. It wasn't driving me nuts. It was just shocking.
Yes.
Shocking.
Because
I had this person just explaining that this is how they perceive me, and they want to understand me, but they can't let go of the things that they're observing of me, and that is just a rooted belief that because I look like this, or because I have this in my past, and it puts a label on me that I am like this, but they understand I'm a different person now.
they don't know how to.
If you change the assumption, can you change the perception?
Yes.
But they were stuck, and it was just. I mean, I love the forwardness to which they came forward and explained this to me, but it was really weird to hear that they look at me like that.
See, now, if you would have had this same conversation a year ago, do you think you would have responded the same?
I don't know. I think I would have been a little bit more irritated than I was because I could understand that with the level that they are self-aware. I forget the word you used. They reflect in a reflection.
Yeah, I don't remember the word. I know, I said it like 5 times too.
But the way that they could reflect was
Introspect.
yes, they were not that introspective. And they have some hard beliefs that would make it hard for them to, I guess, understand me.
Yes. Well, and what's wild is like when you recognize that people's level of communication and comprehension comes from not just their vocabulary set, but their introspection as well. It's a shortcut to cut past all of the feelings that you have in a situation. Like somebody comes at you wild for whatever reason, whether it's because you were too close to them in line, you were riding their ass out in the streets, whatever it is. When you have those confrontational moments with people, the moment they have confrontation, the moment they're lashing out, that already shows you that they are not in control of their emotions, which means right now they're incapable of introspecting. If they're incapable of introspecting, not a lot can be had for this conversation. They've either got to calm down or they've got to get it all out and then be able to let it go, however they deal with it. But when you have those moments, it keeps you from reacting because you want to react. Somebody's being mean to you, they're just getting in your face, they're being an absolute prick and mixing
Give me a reason.
Yeah, just let me open my hand. But in the same token, when you can recognize where they're at, when you can say, oh, this is a lack of emotional regulation. Oh, they can't introspect right now. Oh, they are really pissed. But I don't have to be mad with them. I don't have to take affront to their actions because I already know where they're at. So I don't have to put any more energy into it. I don't have to make it mine. I don't have to step into the experience and say, I'm sorry you're having a really bad day and I really hope it gets better for you. I'm not saying it to be facetious, but I got things to do. So I'm out. And that's all it is. And then your story, they're going to talk to their people about it. And it's a ripple effect, right? Because you decided to do something good instead of something bad. I shouldn't say bad, but you got to do something productive instead of something that keeps you stuck or keeps them stuck. And you're giving them the opportunity to look past their old feelings because you're just not buying into it. And if they do, awesome. If they don't, that's their choice.
Perception is reality.
Perception is reality.
You create your reality. What filter you use to perceive everything.
And what's beautiful about it is if you believe in your perceptions, then they become real. For me, it's magic. Magic has been a part of my life ever since I was a little kid. I just loved fantasy novels. I read the snot out of them. There's so many different fantasy novels that had different types of magic, different ways it was perceived. And it's allowed me to be able to, like, holding on to that, making it having a desire to want to be a real thing in my life. It has helped me have a perspective of the everyday things that we have and how that ties to its own form of magic. Like, we're creators. We create things. We've created everything that exists on this earth.
Well, just being open to the idea of magic is being open to the idea of things happening in a different way.
But it's all perspective, right? Because for some people, magic is very much what magic is, and they either like it or they shun it.
It's supposed to have rules, or it doesn't.
Yeah, so your magic or the type of magic that you have in your life is directly tied to your perspective of what magic is, right? So if magic, if it's as easy as perspective to make magic what you want it to be or what feels right to you, then what's to keep somebody from getting to some form of point to have perfected something? You've got all of those people. Do you remember Stanley's Superhuman that he had running for a while? And these people were like top of their practice. They were doing things that shouldn't be possible because they had such an ardent desire to bring it to fruition. That was their magic at work, creating a skill set that they're going to be number one at. Only hoping that they can come across somebody else just as close so that they can build on that and get a little bit higher.
Have you seen the movie Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes, just like that. Yeah, exactly. You know what's wild is, like, isn't that based off of true events?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can kill a goat with your eyes.
Based on true events. A serious study. The government's
I believe it.
I'm about it. You got to be able to believe in some of it, or you're just not going to have any fun with your life. Belief is the spice of life. What you choose to believe in lets you have your fun. But yeah,
just being open to introspection. What, like, for perception, how do you interpret the situations? What biases might be influencing the views that you're having on the situation?
Coming, is it cultural?
Past experiences.
Is it past experiences? Is it familial?
And then, are you open to revising your perception or your understanding of it?
Because you don't have to give people leeway. It's not about catering to other people. It's really, you're just looking at, like, all right, if there's interference and if everything around me is a reflection of myself and I'm having interference with it, then that means there's something there that's not in flow, and I've got to find what the flow is for my life. Hence why we go through those repeat situations, like whether that's relationships or addictive choices, what have you.
How do your emotions influence how you perceive it? Are you viewing it through an emotional lens, or are you being neutral about the situation? Are you taking into account how they might be coming at you?
Are you burying it because you don't want to confront confront it.
Ooh.
I'm a big guilty contender of that. I've buried a lot.
You know, I've been working through my
hard.
stuff that I bury. It is hard, but you know, I find like we don't want to acknowledge the shame of the thought that we have because we know there's truth in it. And if we can allow those thoughts to surface, allow ourselves to live in the uncomfortability, it doesn't have to be through the whole thought, you know, just a little bit each time and just allow it, invite it.
The fact that you acknowledge that, though,
It's
is a huge step, because a lot of people will go,
they'll defend it or they'll
like, I know, I
Took the
recognized
nail to
that
the grave.
I didn't want to be alone. I wanted to be around people all the time because I didn't want to be alone with my own thoughts. When I recognized that, it's like, ooh, what thoughts am I avoiding? What feelings am I avoiding?
And
it really
Sets off a chain reaction.
but it's a freeing experience to welcome it. When you say, all right, I'm inviting in this hard feeling, and I know it's tied to shame. But shame isn't bad. Shame shows you where you're at. When you have shame or guilt towards something, it's because there's something that's unresolved. It's not that you're a bad person.
it's like a check engine light.
Yeah, it's not that you're a bad person. It's not that you did something bad. It's that there is a way that you want to be that isn't in alignment. And it never will be in alignment if you just keep it buried. And when you bring it in and you say the words, I am inviting this feeling to sit with me, you are more open to feeling the nastiness of it.
It's actually, I've been through therapeutic sessions and hearing one of my close friends, we talk about our therapy sessions sometimes, and inviting that feeling of like, I see your shame, I see you showed up to protect me from, but you're not protecting me, and I need to, you're talking to it as a separate entity.
Yeah.
And it really helps with the whole squaring the feelings away of sitting with them and whatnot, because my close friend, I'm not going to say his name, but he had an experience where, okay, I want you to talk to the feeling that you're feeling right now, and then he said, actually, it feels like I'm being stopped at a door, like I haven't developed something that I could hear these other voices or parts of myself yet. And when he walked out of the session, it was dawned on my voice of compassion, being compassionate to yourself. He knows that until he develops his voice of compassion, he can't properly deal with certain parts.
See, and I like that you say that, because like that was one of the big things that I was recognizing a couple of years back, was that there was a lot of things that I wanted to do in my physical reality that I wasn't able to either do or hold on to the habit, because there was a lot of like shadow work, if you will, that needed to be worked on first before I could start making those steps. And
Self-love is huge.
and self-love is
I don't
hard.
feel like you can do a whole lot of introspection successfully if you don't have some form of self-love going on, because you can't look at yourself and want to help yourself if you're looking at it like all these things are wrong with you, and just discuss, because you're not going to want to expose yourself to yourself.
Right. Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's really systemic to like your guilt and shame is, I feel like, it's really tied to your childhood, because you're scorned in your childhood in order to learn.
Parents. Like he was saying, Nikki Scorpio is a guy that I've taken some classes from, and the way that he was talking about doing your own internal work in ways of parenting yourself. Show up for yourself the way that you wish your parents did.
Yes. Well, and it's not just parents; it's your teachers, it's your friends. Like there's a lot of guilt and shame tied into people's lives from other people's opinions and how they decided to confront you on things. so on and so forth, right? So
Mhm.
recognizing that that is why you react to shame that way, because it has a negative connotation, is also a really helpful thing for you to be able to kind of like address it. Because you reckon you can be like, all right, shame, I don't know you. I have a perspective of you, and it's not great. I'd like to change that, so I need to understand not just why am I feeling shameful, but what is shame? And you sit there and you think on that. And you kind of just maybe do your own little looking in. But once you have your own understanding of what shame is in your life, then you can start molding it. You can start
Your
working with it.
definition of shame and where it shows up. Nikki Scorpio phrased it in a way where if you're doing the introspection, you could start from like when was the first time you felt shame?
Yeah.
How old were you? What did it feel like? And that's where you root it from, and you could go further back with each emotion. Where does shame come from?
Well, and what's beautiful is like when you go back and you look at those, your memory is from such a young age. You didn't have perspective. You didn't have experience. You didn't have
And you
understanding.
can reshape it now with the
Yes.
knowledge that you gained.
You know, I did that the other day. It was really not like anything consequential, but I never as a kid understood how to divide fractions. I never understood the whole process, right? And there was this little riddle, and I go look at the comments, and I had a sneaking suspicion of what the answer or why the answer was going to be what it was, but I still couldn't make it make sense. Somebody's posts this thing from ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gives the explanation, and it clicks, and all of a sudden, the moment it clicks, I like see a vision of my third grade self sitting in the chair, staring at this paper, not understanding what the teacher is saying. Just could not. It was like apples and oranges, man. I couldn't make it make sense, and like that all just in an instant just shifted, and then all of a sudden, I felt like an upgrade in my soul. I don't know, it was weird, and I feel like that's probably what that.
Almost like an aha moment.
Yeah, I think that's what our aha moments are. Our aha moments. They feel so aha because
An activation of sorts.
Things
Yeah,
align
you
with.
fixed a misalignment somewhere in the past.
Yeah.
A really cool thing that ties perspective, self-love, as well as teaching yourself new habits, all into one, is to take the things that you don't want to do today, that you know you can do today, but maybe you don't have the energy for it, maybe it's just not on your to-do list, whatever. And if you have the time and you can do it, say, I'm going to do this for tomorrow's me. We put off a lot of things for tomorrow, right? Like future us has it hard. We put a lot on future us, right? But if we were to show love to our future us, then we would appreciate it in our present. We would appreciate our past us in our present. Think about it. So if I don't want to do dishes, I'm just like, I got the time, but I don't want to do it. Because I love myself, I'm going to give my future self a favor, and I'm going to get the dishes done tonight. Then tomorrow, when you get up and you don't see those dishes in the sink, you'll be like, oh man, past me fucking nailed it. They did me a solid. I really appreciate them for that. I wonder what I can do for future tomorrow.
You know, the thing that pops up in my head when you talk about that is back when we used to drink a bit, and we would set out a glass of water or some like Advil on the counter, like, oh man, I'm gonna need that tomorrow. And then I wake up like, oh man, thank you so much for taking care of me today. I didn't want to. I needed this.
It's already all set out and ready to go. So that's like a really good way to work with gratitude.
Picking out your outfit the night before.
It's a good mantra of treat yourself like your future self. Treat your future self.
Treat your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what's beautiful, oh my gosh. How many of you guys struggle with, I don't know so much that it's validation, it's wanting to be accepted, wanting to be noticed, wanting to be doted on. You want that something, whether it's from somebody or from some rando in the street that just has something to say to you, like, this is a way to give that to yourself. Because you said it that way. treat your future self. If you're treating your future self, then you are giving not just giving yourself love, but you are showing yourself what you want, what your desires, instead of looking for it in the perfect partner that's going to give you the time of day the way you want it to, that's going to throw you over the moon and stars. Like, you can be that person for yourself, and that's how you do it. And then it comes full circle, because, right, like what you do for yourself expounds, and then you see it out in the reality. So if you really want that special someone that's going to treat you the way you want to be treated, you have to treat yourself that way, and that's hard to do.
You really have to work on self-love for everything.
And gratitude.
To have the best perspective on life, to create the reality that we want. We all want to have an enjoyable life. So if we look for that perspective on our life, practice gratitude, it'll welcome it. You'll see it, like the video said, if you tell a skier, don't hit a tree, when they're going down the hill, they're going to see a bunch of freaking trees. But if you tell them, follow the path,
they're going to see a bunch of paths.
They're going to see the paths, and they're going to see not so many trees.
I just love perspective.
So,
it's such a powerful thing. It's so colorful. It's like putty. You
working
can do
on
anything
self-love. I saw this other video the other day that said, so the interviewer asked the gentleman, how would you coach people on working on self-love? And he said, use the 5 love languages. And turn them on yourself. In a way, you're dating yourself. You're allowing yourself to feel in every which way it could be loved. The gift giving, the words of affirmation, and all of them. To heal yourself and to love yourself, use the 5 love languages.
Just getting so much. I needed this. I think this session was for Braden. If it's for you guys, awesome. I'm happy for you, but yeah.
Lisa Murphy, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes, thank you.
And whoever else is here in the chat, the other 3 people. 4.
What's the time check? I always lose myself.
That's only 7:12.
Okay, cool.
Still doing good.
Beautiful thing about gratitude is it.
I smell fire, and it is like causing this ADD reaction in me. Do you smell it?
I did.
Like, I know people are lighting fires right now, but I didn't leave anything on, right?
No, I don't think so.
Big candles.
The beautiful thing about gratitude is it helps you shape a healthier perspective. And gratitude tied with introspection really brings you a level of humility that you didn't know you could have. And then when you have humility and gratitude, and great perspective and introspection.
Lisa Murphy says, yes, I remember buying myself something I wanted and being okay with that.
That is hard. Especially, that's my mother, by the way. Love you, Mom.
Hello.
There's mom guilt. And that is something I really worked on, because
mom guilt is
I go to the store and I find things that I like, and like, oh, I could really use that. Oh, but I could buy diapers, or I could buy formula, or I could buy school supplies. Like, I don't need to do that. And I did it so often that I had holes in my bra, and I hadn't bought myself a new bra in 5 freaking years. And a female friend asked me, like, let's go buy a bra. I'm like, oh, dude, no, I can't do that. Bras are like $50, $60 if we get like the good ones. Like, yeah, but it's quality. You're investing in yourself. You deserve a good clothing that makes you feel good.
Yeah,
that you feel comfortable in. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, but I can't. The $50 I could go towards this or that, or I might need to pay for this. It's fine. I don't need it. And allowing myself to receive gifts like that, or allow myself to do that for me and not excuse it away, it was so hard.
I feel that. I deal with that. I've gotten better at it, but it's hard. My thing really was more of like I was just really cheap about everything. I wanted the cheapest of everything. And then, you get into a part of your life where you look at everything around you and none of it's the same stuff that you ever bought and none of it's gonna last. And not that I want to hold on to worldly possessions in the same right. Like, shouldn't you be able to enjoy something long term? Especially, like, sure, it's money, but like, that money comes from our hard earned work. Like,
Your mom
bust
just
your butt
commented
for it.
dad guilt? Question mark.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got 2 little girls. The guilt trip me all the time.
Same.
Yeah. All the time, all the time.
My favorite perspective for stuff like that is how would you treat your best friend? When you're going out and buying stuff, would you scrutinize what you're getting them because it costs too much? I wouldn't do that. Like, no, that's my best friend. They deserve that.
Once upon a
That's
time,
usually
I
your
would,
perspective.
actually. I
Well, then
was
they're not your best
I
friend.
was Mr. Scrooge to myself more than anyone else.
Then
Just
that
like,
sounds like a deeper rooted something else.
yeah, well, it just comes from not having money, and then when you have money, you want the biggest bang for your buck, and so you're like quantity. Quality is whatever, and eventually I'll get some quality things, but like, I mean, think about it. You got $150 in your pocket. Are you going to be happy with one really good purchase that cost you $100, leaves you with 50? Or are you going to be stoked to have like 10, 15 little things that you can mess around with and keep you occupied for like the next few weeks?
It's strange what we're really generous with and what we're really frugal with in terms of just like not even being money. Sometimes.
But that's also how you perceive it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you change your perspective on it, then you could have a whole different experience all around.
And that's how you gain wealth. Wealth is gained through perspective, and that's all forms of wealth. If you want to get rich with money, you want that kind of wealth, your perspective is going to be skewed towards how does my money work for me? What am I doing to make my money make me more money? How am I getting my job to be something where I'm making more money than the hours that I'm putting in? How do I make it worth my time? Where do I go with this? If it's wealth with kids and love and relationships, then it's on my off time. What am I doing with my family? How are we bonding? How are we having those moments that we can look back on and smile and laugh on? Those people, wherever your passions or your focus is where it's all going to go. So if you want to have wealth in something, it's not just not just focus, it's perspective. What's your perspective on things that you want wealth in? And as your perspective grows, you'll get yourself. Like for me, I've always wanted to save money, but every time I save money, it's like, did it. There's the money. I put it over there, and then I finally have a good chunk. I'm like, damn it! Now I got to go fix something.
Yeah.
That's a terrible perspective to have, and you're never going to have the money you need for the things you have because you're like, about it. Instead, it's I'm so stoked that I can put this money away. Like I don't need to touch it. I can afford not to touch it. It's going to grow. I'm going to have $1,000 here pretty soon. I'm going to do something with it. It's going to be great. And then if on the off chance something does occur, some kind of mini emergency, well, shit, I'm so glad I have that money. I'm so glad that I can go ahead and put it into this. Like, it's fortunate that I had the foresight to save money. It may not go to the reason that I had intended for it.
Positive reinforcement has more of an effect than a negative reinforcement.
So now,
but to undo that negative reinforcement,
that's the hard part.
You're stuck in a place and you can't get out. How do you make the best of it?
Right.
Or if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in.
The more you practice seeing what you're looking for, the easier it'll be to find. So if you're looking at it from a point of money, if you notice how little you have, you will always find less and less. But if you find the little ways that you are saving or that you are gaining money, then you notice it, and then you are more focused on those areas where you might not have noticed before that you were gaining money.
So, like, now I'm in a position, like, when I get good chunks of money, I'm like, I made enough money to save. Like, I can't wait. I wonder how long
Follow
it's going
for
to
more
last this
investment
time.
tips.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Brandon's
That
going
was
to
great,
start his own little podcast.
I'm a
about
really bad
finances.
gambler.
maybe one day after I finally figure them out, I'm like, all right, guys,
Mm.
from one ADHDer to another, on the worst of skills, I'm going to show you how to do this from the ground up. I don't know.
Oh boy.
That seems like a lot. See, even that kind of perspective, like when you say things like that, you got to really be mindful of how you're thinking, the words you're saying out loud. Like that is me shutting down an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go and do this whole financial podcasting, but the
But
moment I
something
say
inside you believes that you're not ready.
yes, and then to say that seems like too much or that's a lot, that already makes me want to shun it and just be like, I won't go down that avenue. So be aware of how you are taking in the things that are coming your way and how you're reacting to them. Is it positive reactions? Are you reacting in a positive way?
It's funny because I never realized how connected self-love was in all of this
Oh, I know.
until tonight.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like working on the self-love and accepting yourself and like just looking at it, through the filter of self-love, you can be generous enough to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're working on stuff or they haven't worked on that yet. So they're reacting
Well, and that's
to
where
you
you
in a
get the,
certain way.
and that's where you get
Instead
the
of taking
opportunity.
offense to it and taking it so personal.
Well, that's where you get the opportunity to give them grace, right?
I
You
know,
get to
which is
practice
frustrating.
grace.
Because I wish I had more grace. I
Damn it,
don't.
great.
Is that why I'm so upset? I'm gonna do it to you too. I'm just have enough grace to give myself.
But eventually, you give out enough
Do I
grace
have
to
enough
people,
grace?
it's got to come back to you, right?
But I want to have a better experience. So in order to give myself a better experience, it's not exhausting me to extend more grace because I am also loving myself by giving them grace so that I have a better experience.
Exactly, because it's about you. I don't care what anybody
Right?
says. Life is
Ego
about.
has a place. You can't kill ego.
Well, yeah, but life is about you. Life is always about you. You create your reality. You show people how to treat you. You give love so others can give love to you. Everybody around you is a reflection of you. Everything points back to you. But it's so that you can learn how to be selfless and you can give to the reflections of you so that you can build your inner self so that your reflections become better. So being selfish while learning how to be selfless, it's another form of duality, and that's what life is.
I really like the acknowledgement of my reaction to you is the awareness of me. So like I don't know if everybody else does. I'm gonna put the perception and assumption out there that other people do feel this as well. How's it go? The perception of other people is a reflection of you, and when they are acting in ways that I don't like, I don't. That sits in my mind like,
why don't I like that?
I'm not like that, or that is something about me that I don't like, or they're doing things that are me. Like that's not me, and my brain doesn't like that. It struggles with that.
But
the ickiness that I see is not in me, but my reaction to how they come at me is the awareness of myself. I don't know. That gives me more validation.
yes,
It gives me my own validation. And they might be icky, but I'm not putting out hate and nasty judgment towards them. Like regardless of whether I don't like it, I'm reacting in a way that I can feel proud of, pride, ego, that I feel good about, that makes me happy. I don't know.
No, I'm right there with you. It gave me a sense of freedom because now when I have people like talk to me, I really pay attention to my emotional reactions, and then I get to know more about me. It's a chance to discover me. That's what I love about having experiences. Is a chance to discover more about yourself every time. And it's sometimes it's learning something new about yourself, and sometimes it's getting to see something that you got to let go of that's no longer in your life. It's just showing up to remind you, hey, by the way, remember, you're not like this anymore. We may never have been, but you were at this level in some degree, and it's not there anymore. So take a moment to Give yourself a round of applause because,
Right.
yeah, you've had
Right.
progress.
And the frustration with people not being at the same level you are.
I think
Like-
that's an ego thing too. Very much.
For sure. I will dig deeper into that. But you can't
will
force
be a
people to go
grandmaster.
through the experiences that made you who you are. And
I will become a Buddhist. I will find Zen. I will detach. Honestly, I think this is the closest I've come to detaching from.
I don't want to completely detach. I like being in the experience.
Detaching doesn't mean you aren't in the experience.
Mm,
Detaching means you get to have the choice what experiences you are in part of and to what degree. Right?
Doesn't that take away from the experience?
I don't think so. Because, like, think about it. Like,
I want the feelings to come. I don't want to just observe them.
but you would have feelings. Non-attachment doesn't mean lack of feeling. Non-attachment is...
There's a belief in me that somehow feels like it is.
Well, yeah,
In the
that's a
things that I've heard,
That's a
and
perception.
understood it.
But think about everything we just talked about tonight, Whitney. It's about introspecting. It's about stepping away from the emotion after you felt it so that you can use what you've learned through your emotion to make a guided decision. So your emotions show you where you're at. They don't make choices for you, right? But a lot of us live in an emotional state where they make the
Chess
choices
has
for
a funny
us.
way of bringing that out. I have to say, because your emotions get the best of you, and after checkmate, that's it. You
It's gone.
can't take it back. But when you learn and you humble yourself through your loss, you become a better player.
And you learn how to have where you're not making an emotional decision. You're not frustrated at the guy for kicking
You
your
got
butt.
tactics now.
Yes. So then
Better understand it.
practicing unattachment or practicing no attachment, non-attachment, is you're not attaching your emotions to the experience. You can still feel the emotions through the experience that you're having, but you're not beholden to the experience because you're not putting the feelings in there to sit with it unless you choose to. So now you're going to make the choice. Oh, I'm having this feeling. Do I want more of this feeling? Am I going to cater to this? Are we going to see where this goes? This could be a fun experience. Or is it I don't like that. I'm not going to that rave. That just doesn't sound great at all. I think I'm just going to not feel bad about saying no, and I'm going to go enjoy my night elsewhere. You guys have a great time.
Tell someone
That's
no,
unattached.
and their reaction
I think so.
will tell you a
Because
lot.
you are acknowledging your emotion and then you're choosing how you want that experience to follow.
My brain goes unattached from the human experience. And I want to stay attached to it.
But you can't
what
get
you're
away from it.
explaining is still being attached to it.
You are attached to it. You can't get away from it. The experiences happen, but you don't have to let the experience happen to you.
Live in
unless
the
you want it to.
Choose your reaction.
You can
That's what your
choose.
mother says.
Yes. And that's practicing non-attachment. It's like
That's in the moment. I'm
Well,
still
here's
attached.
the thing. Codependency.
I think we're getting it.
No, we're getting here. Codependency. We're going to do this. Codependency. Somebody who's codependent, they need their partner, right? They just, their partner is their everything. It's the center of their universe. Okay?
Right.
So they are
They
emotionally
built their
attached.
entire identity around that
And
person.
they are attached to that person.
Mhm.
They can't get away from that person. They don't feel like they can live. Is that person practicing non-attachment? No. They're attached. They are so attached they can't do anything.
I love you, Joe.
If you can break away from that. All right, thank you. If you can break away from that and you can recognize that you're having this feeling, this need to hold on to somebody or something, and recognize
I know I thought to close at 8.
we do close at 8.
He just gave us a 3-minute warning.
Good for him. My session is paid for. And we already put the time schedule.
Anyways.
But so that person that is attached to what did I just say? Codependency.
Yeah.
Like they don't have any control over their life. life is happening to them. They don't get to choose. They don't get to control because they're attached. When you practice non-attachment, you're not attaching your emotional things to any experience that happens. You get to choose. You get to choose which. It's just like cars that drive by. You sit down and you watch cars drive by. You're not sitting there getting out of your seat, watching that car to see how far it can go.
Okay.
You're just watching cars go by. You get to choose which car you're going to watch.
Unattaching from outside validation.
Yeah, it's part of it. There's a lot of different forms of unattachment.
Yes.
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 Okay. I enjoyed this one.
This was a good one.
This was nice.
Got a
We
little
should do this again next week.
Yes,
We
most definitely. All right.
I saw a lot of comments. I'm excited to go back and read them.
Yeah.
Kids, come on.
We're
No, but
arguing.
this is it's not
It's a good
argument.
debate.
It's building. We get to build understanding, right? Because I could be wrong.
I enjoy the different perspectives.
I
might be wrong.
and I get intense when I start wanting to push a point. It's not that I want to be right.
And that's why you're on this.
Yeah. Olé.
Woo.
All right, guys.
Thanks for being here, Bryson.
Yeah.
Really enjoy your company.
Thank you. Like a dinner.
Have a good rest of your evening. We're going to call it for tonight.
Until next time, guys.
Yes. You're closest.
Bye. Hasta luego. Wait, it's gonna take a piece.
Bye, Rick.
Thank you. Bye, guys.